Good evening. Tonight, the video, I'm going to kind of introduce the project or the group activity that you will be working on tomorrow. You're going to be working on this in pairs or in groups of three, so either groups of two or three tomorrow, and you will need to turn in one project per group. Okay. All right, so let's have a look at this. Basically, if you read this, you can see what we're talking about here. But basically, what we're talking about, this circle here represents the Earth. This height here represents you standing on the Earth, right? So pretend you're standing up here, and then in a straight line, you can see the horizon. Okay, obviously, this is not drawn to scale because there's no way that you're as tall as what the radius of the Earth is. Okay, but that's the concept here. Now you can see that this triangle here between your line of sight and the horizon would make a right angle to the radius of the circle. So obviously from where you stand to the middle of the earth is the radius, and from this point here to this point here is also the radius of the earth. Okay, so you can see we've got a right angle triangle here, and it tells you here use the Pythagorean theorem. Remember the Pythagorean theorem, we have a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Okay, so I'm kind of going to show you something with this project as we go along. But this is the question that we're looking at. How far would you be able to see to the horizon? Okay, so this line here, D, this is what we're going to be finding. How far can we see if we were on a perfectly flat or obviously surface with nothing blocking our view? Okay. So if we have a look at this one here, the first activity here, you will use Pythagorean theorem to write a formula. First of all, research, figure this out, how many feet are in 1 mile, okay? And then we're going to talk about these conversions. Okay, so obviously in 1 mile, there is 5,280 feet, okay, 5,280 feet. So converting 15 feet to miles. Now, there's lots of different ways to set this up. Basically, the way that I would set this up would be 1 mile is the same as 5,280 feet. Okay, now if you want to convert 15 feet into miles, you put 15 feet on the top, right? Because obviously your feet would cancel out. So 1 times 15 is 15. So essentially, you are dividing the amount of feet you have by 5,280. And that will give you a really, really small number, and that will be in miles. Okay. So that's how we can convert it. If you do that, it comes out as like 0.00284, etc. Okay, so now I encourage you to use some decimal places here because we're talking about some pretty big numbers. So that's how we're going to represent the height in feet with miles. Okay, basically, like you can plug in like 15 feet. Like I'm 7 feet tall, so to figure out how many miles tall I am, I just put 7 here. If you're 6 feet tall, put a 6 there, etc., etc. Okay. Now, calculating and trying to figure out this formula here. So this one here, this is what I want to show you. Okay, so remember our triangle right here. Okay, so a squared would be r, b squared would be d, c is r plus h. Okay, c is r plus h. So when we have a squared plus b squared equals c squared, we have r squared, the radius of the earth, plus the distance that you can see to the horizon, equals your height, which, remember, we're converting it. We've got to convert all this thing to miles. We all have to be measured in the same thing. So your height in miles is going to be your height in feet divided by 5,280. So that's your height in miles now converted, plus the radius of the Earth squared. That is C, right, in your triangle. Your height plus the radius of the Earth squared. Okay? So let me just explain this to you. Activity 2, explain why the formula found in activity 1 is approximately equal to this. Okay, there's something I want to show you. So if we try and solve this here, right, first of all, we have to figure out what H, and I'll write it down here. We've got H over 5,280 plus R squared, as in we're going to multiply it by itself. Okay, so if we use FOIL here, first terms, we've got H squared, 5,280 times by 5,280 is a really big number. It is 27,878,400. Okay, so that's my first terms. Now my terms on the outside, I have R times by H over 5,280. Terms on the inside, I have the same thing, R times by H over 5,280. And terms that come last, I have R times R, which is R squared. So this long big thing here is what this equals, okay? So if we're trying to solve this equation for D, obviously we would subtract R squared from both sides here. So we're going to subtract R squared. Well, you can see R squared minus R squared, they cancel out. Now, this here, like my height is 7 feet, right? So height squared, so let's say even if you were 7 feet tall, you've got 49 here. Now, 49 divided by this big long number is something like 0.000000175. Okay, a really, really, really small number, which is not really going to have an impact on this. Okay, so since this is a really small number, we're saying approximately, right? We're saying the distance you can see is approximately equal to this because this is a really small number. So we're going to disregard this just because it's so small. So these here we can combine, right? They are like terms. So these can combine to 2RH over 5,280. Now the 2 divided by 5,280 is 2,640. Okay, and so that's where we get this equation from. Okay, so this is the equation that you are going to be using. And I've just kind of explained how to get that. Okay. Obviously, you have to do some research here. I'm not going to do it for you. Find the radii of the planets. Okay, obviously the first one you want to find is Earth. So we're going to use this here represents the radius of the Earth. This here represents your height. Okay, so you can plug, once you find the radius of the Earth, you can plug that number in here, and that's represented in miles. You put your height in miles, right? Oh, sorry, you put your height in feet. You put your height in feet because this is going to help us convert it to miles. So, for example, for me, it would be whatever the radius of the Earth is, okay, which you're going to find, times by 7, because I'm 7 feet tall. Okay, and then you divide that by this, you find the square root of it, and you find how far you can see. If you're 7 feet tall, like I am, I can see approximately 3.24 miles. Okay, so if you're a little bit shorter than that, you're going to see a little bit less than 3.24 miles. Okay, now we can solve this for H like we did yesterday. Remember, if we have this formula here, and I'm not going to do it completely for you, but I'll just get you started. If you want to solve this for H, you would have to square both sides. So now you have D squared equals RH over 2640. Now you can multiply both sides by 2640, divide by R, and there you go. Okay. So stick with this. Obviously, do these things. Okay, do these things tomorrow. Good luck with it. Have some fun with it. and I'll see you guys on Friday.